Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 655 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Ashlee Dozier, and she's with UntitledChapter.com, and she came out. This is a really interesting episode in that her business came out of an abusive relationship, and it turned into a journey that led into the business that she's in now. So we'll love to hear that story, although we're not happy that happened to her, but she's making something great out of it, which should be an inspiration to everybody listening. And also, she used to work for the CDC. She's probably happy to be out of that mess at this point. So we'll bring her on in a minute. Now, make sure you check out episode 654. That was called Autoresponders Revisited, one of my training. I don't know, we have a couple hundred training episodes, not interviews. And that was episode based on episode 337. So you want to listen to episode 337, and the latest one is 654, all on autoresponders and the power that they give you. While I'm talking to Ashlee here today, I've got over 500 sequences of autoresponders, taking care of 60,000 customers and hundreds of thousands of prospects and all that stuff. So very, very powerful. So check anytime you want a back episode, check out screwthecommute.com/ and then the episode number. That would be episode 654. All right. Make sure you pick up a copy of our automation ebook. I want you dealing with prospects and customers and developing products and services and, I don't know, hanging out in Egypt. We'll hear about that while we're at it. Rather than fighting with your computer. Just one of the tips in this book that I give you, and this isn't like a 3-page checklist. This is like a 60-page book of all the ways I automate myself so I can handle up to those 60,000 customers and hundreds of thousands of prospects without pulling my hair out. And we actually estimated one of the tips in the book, just one, has saved me 8 million keystrokes. We actually estimated it. And last year was about 7.5 million. Now it's about 8 million keystrokes, and allows me to help people lightning fast. And then you're most likely to get the money if you get back fast to people. So check it out. Grab your copy at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're at it, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. Put us on your cell phone and tablet. Take us with you on the road. All right, let's get to the main event. Ashlee Dozier is the owner and founder of Untitled Luxury Apothecary. In 2016, after a decade-long career in public health and also exiting that abusive relationship, she set out for some adventure. A backpacking trip around the world helped her discover a new passion for bringing exotic and luxurious goods to those looking for something as out of the box as she was. So, Ashlee, are you ready to screw the commute?
I'm here and ready to go.
You're ready to go. No, you didn't say I'm here ready to screw, so that's good. So I didn't catch you on that. So, Ashlee, I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through that abusive relationship to get where you are now. But, a lot of things we go through make us what we are today. So it's quite inspiring of what you've done. So take us back. I know you work some of the, we kind of throw up in our mouth when we say the dirty word JOB, around here, because this is an entrepreneurial podcast. But take us back and see how you came up through the ranks. You were in skincare and healthcare and all that stuff. And then we'll see how you transitioned into this business.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked one of those JOBs for a very long time. I worked mostly in the public sector. So I was a school teacher for a short period of time. I taught at a university. And then I ran the health education department at a major university out in Texas. And, really enjoyed working in public health. Ended up finally in Atlanta working at the CDC, and believe it or not, really enjoyed that too.
Well, don't you wish you were there now?
I will say I have much love and respect for my former colleagues and still friends, that are there. because it has been a rough few years for them. But I am not sad to be gone from there, and just out of Atlanta as well, and back in Florida, which is, my home state where I was born and raised, and glad to be back in.
Yeah, well, it cracked me up. The leader, I forget what her name is, Walensky, I think her name is now, and she gets on national TV and says something, and then everybody freaks out, and they say, "Oh no, she wasn't. She was just saying her personal opinion," and she's standing in front of the CDC sign.
I know, it's so hard because science changes constantly,
And so do politics.
right, exactly. And so it's like there's just constant, speaking about what's happening now, and then having to apologize for that and update things, and this, yeah, it's a mess, I'm telling you.
So you hit there for a stint, then what?
So while I was working at the CDC, that's when, unfortunately, I was in that abusive relationship.
Did you meet
and
him
when
at the CDC?
I did not.
Oh,
I
okay.
met him where any classy lady, meets a future partner in a bar.
Oh, of course. Yes,
Um,
right.
and which should have been my first clue, right? But no, he was, a very nice man to start. And I still say, not a bad man, just a very bad partner. And so I was working at the CDC at the time, and when I lost my job there because of budget cuts, because of those ever-changing politics, I kind of was fed up with, the instability of working in the public sector because of, that wasn't the first time I lost my job because of budget cuts, or that where they, did a
Rearranging
freeze on,
or something. Yeah.
freeze on, our annual increases and things like that. And so I kind of realized that, as much as I was always told that, that was the quote unquote, stable lifestyle, was to have a job working for somebody else like that. I realized that working for myself, may not be quite as stable, but I have more control. And that's when I really decided that, maybe I need to find ways to do this myself. And I did. I started, with a skincare company, and I started with that I started a medical and pharmaceutical sales company.
All right, so stop right there for a second, because we like to see the transition from the paycheck to the business. So did you save up money, or did you just get fed up one day and walk out? How did you transition to that first business?
So the first business, actually with a multi-level marketing company, and that was just, right after I lost my job at the CDC. I happened to get a phone call from a friend that told me about it. And typically, I would say that was not my, where I would have thought to go. I know that there's a lot of opinions there about multi-level marketing.
Yeah, I don't have any good
sales
ones.
Companies.
Yeah.
I understand that, and but this particular company, the way that they were doing it was different because it was more like a franchise. You did not have to purchase any product and try to sell it yourself. They basically drop shipped the product for you, so you were more of an ambassador for the product. And because I kind of worked just, through college and stuff in skincare, and I'd always been a fan of, the beauty industry, I thought, okay, this may be something for me to at least do until I figure out my next steps.
But were you getting unemployment or something from getting canned from the CDC, or did you have any kind of money coming in?
I had a severance. I did have a severance package for a short period of time. But then I decided that, I would pull up my bootstraps and, start to make money for myself. And I did with that skincare company, for a while. I was, making good money and kind of, I was good at it because I was very honest with people. I'm not your typical
and you have nice
salesperson.
skin.
Yeah, well,
it's always good to be
a
poster girl for the product.
It's very true. I started using the product and my skin looked amazing. And I actually believed in the product because they came from dermatologists rather than your typical just like business person that was trying to come up with a direct sales company just to have something to do and to make money. So I did believe in the product, and I enjoyed talking to people about it. And I enjoyed, for me, it was more of I was selling a service of helping them with their skin versus, just trying to sell them products. And so I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. And because of that, my ex was,
Now, was he working and bringing in money too, so you could still eat and pay your bills during this period?
yes, but I was paying my own bills too.
Okay,
We were 50-50 on everything. And so, that's one thing that I've always helped to pay my own way.
nice.
And yeah, and so I was still paying for, my half of everything. And I was actually working, in medical sales, like pharmaceutical sales. I
Hmm.
had gotten him into that industry through my own connections, got him a job, a great job in that industry, and realized that what he was doing, we could actually do kind of on our own. And so we started our own sister companies that did exactly kind of what he was doing, but for somebody else. So I owned one of the companies. It was not something I was passionate about. We were selling pharmaceutical products, and I basically, took over that because he had one very large account that he couldn't handle himself. And so that's what I'm good at, is coming in and setting up, systems and talking to people and keeping those accounts going,
Now, when you
and
say
really.
pharmaceutical products, are you talking about pills or medical devices or what?
We had a little bit of medical devices, but mostly we were doing the type of pharmaceuticals that are made specifically for a customer. So it's not like we were just selling, pills that were pre-made. We were selling things that were coming from pharmacies that were hormones or like vitamins and things like that were injectables
Hmm.
mostly, that were specific for those customers.
Now, do you have to have any kind of special insurance for that? Because when people tell me they want to sell supplements and anything, I kind of makes me worried that anything that's ingestible could lead to some big lawsuits if something goes wrong and claims that they were hurt by it. So, did you have to have any special insurance for that kind of business?
We did to an extent, absolutely. I always say, it's better to CYA in those
Hmm.
situations. But because our products were coming from pharmacies, the pharmacies actually held the
Oh,
liability.
okay.
So we weren't making the products; we were the in between that were helping the pharmacies sell their products to the end users.
Yeah, I just wondered because, sometimes people just sue everybody involved and then see what
Everybody,
happens. Yeah.
yeah, they certainly
Hmm.
try, yes, but we were lucky in that we were kind of the middleman, and so they were the ones responsible for the actual product.
Got it. Okay. So then what?
So I was not passionate about that business, although I was still good at it. It wasn't something that I loved to do, and that is around the time when I started to realize just how toxic my relationship
Mm.
had become.
And this
Uh,
relationship was about 10 years, you said?
we were together for 6 years total.
Okay.
At that point, we had been together for about 5, and then around 5.5 was when he proposed. Um, uh, I was thinking that his proposal meant that he was ready to shape up, and start treating me
Yeah.
properly. 6 months after he proposed is when we broke up, because we realized very quickly that I did absolutely nothing to plan the wedding, which meant that I did not want to marry him. Um, and it was a very mutual agreement that it was unhealthy. It was no longer working. I just at that point wanted out of there, wanted away from the situation. I handed him the business.
Who got the
Uh,
dogs though?
I got the dogs.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you got the dogs, nothing else matters.
I agree that, well, the dogs were mine going into it, so
Okay.
there's no way they were going anywhere else but with me. Um, but yeah, so I got the dogs, he got the business and the house, because I was very generous and I just wanted the way. And so I put everything I owned into a storage unit, and I decided that that was going to be my time to go travel the world. He actually bought me a backpack as a parting gift, and
Don't let the
I
backpack hit you in the ass,
that's
right?
right. I packed up that backpack and I set out on a solo backpacking trip.
Wow. That takes guts.
It did. And I look back now and I realize, wow, I didn't think that hard about that. I just kind of went for it. And you don't realize looking back, like how dangerous it sounds, when I was traveling the world by myself as, a young blonde woman going to some countries where that's quite
Right.
rare.
Now, what
Um,
wasn't he? This was a mentally abusive relationship, not a physically.
it was verbally abusive, mentally and emotionally abusive. I
So
didn't
you're no
realize
good. Nobody likes you. You're a worthless piece of crap. That kind of stuff.
that's it. That's it. Then
You
nobody
showed
nobody
him, didn't you?
likes me. That was my biggest thing, I think, when I went to travel, that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make friends, and damn it, people like me. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I that was, one of those things. One of the reasons I went to travel was because I needed to start to trust my own intuition again.
Mm-hmm.
I had completely lost that ability to trust my own gut. And I needed to gain that back. And I needed to feel like, I could be confident enough to travel by myself, to be my own person, to meet new people. And so because of that, I also didn't plan an itinerary for my travels. I said, I'm just going to go where I feel like I need to go next. And
This was before COVID, right?
it was before
Yeah.
COVID. It was
Okay.
back in 2016. So I was lucky enough, yes, that I did not have to deal with any of those types of restrictions.
All right. So, uh, put COVID aside. What tips would you have for someone else that's in an abusive relationship like this? I mean, going to Egypt is kind of a big trip for somebody. What would be what was your mindset at the time when you're trying to make that decision to get out of that house, get out of that relationship?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things is start to figure out who around you can trust. Um, because you know, thought I realized how quickly, he was how good of an actor he was.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the moment I left and was honest about the reason why I left, I got a lot of I lost a lot of friends. And so I realized though that
Pseudo
right,
friends, right?
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I realized very quickly, which friends were standing behind me, which friends believed me. I think that was one of the biggest parts. So if you find yourself in that situation, just know that there are people who will believe you, and that those people are the ones that you turn to. And that helped me significantly, to realize that I had a few friends that would just do anything for me, and let me stay with them, when I first left the house, and let me come stay with them while I was traveling. And so while yes, it's hard to, go on a 4-month trip around the world, immediately after that, I was lucky that I had a little bit of money saved, and that because of that, believe it or not, that multi-level marketing business, I was able to travel because I was able
Mm-hmm.
to work that business from anywhere.
Right.
So I became a digital nomad. And that's when I said, screw the commute. And I just began traveling instead. So my commute became airplanes, from one continent to the next for a while I roamed around the world, which I know is not, everyone's not capable of doing that immediately after a relationship. So that's why I always tell people, get away however you can. The healthiest thing to do is to take yourself out of the situation. So find people you can trust, find people you can go stay with, there's always somebody who's willing to help if you just look. And so start reaching out to people, once you realize that it's you want to make a move.
Yeah. So just try to avoid murder or hiring a hitman or something like that. Probably
I mean, there's
there's
a
other way.
reason that show Snapped, it's on TV.
I saw. I don't know if that was the name of the show, but there was a show on years ago, and it was about undercover policemen catching people trying to uh, hire hitmen for their wife or husband. And as you watch the show, you're thinking, "Oh yeah, I really don't blame them." Jeez,
I
yeah,
I joke all the time, but I'm like, that show Snapped. I mean, those women have a point sometimes.
exactly. All right, so what happened in Egypt that turned this whole deal around for you?
Well, so while I was traveling, I went my whole trip was, like I said, 4 months in 12 countries. So Egypt was just one of the countries on my list that I, knew I wanted to go to, but didn't know what I wanted to do while I was there. Just knew I wanted to see all the cool stuff, that everyone talks about. And So I got there, I went to Cairo and went and saw, the largest pyramids, the pyramids of Giza, and did all of that and went to the Egyptian Museum, and it was amazing. But people kept asking me if I was going to be going on a cruise down the Nile River. And I said, well, since I don't have a set itinerary, I can definitely add that in there. And I immediately, looked one up and caught a little flight to a small town where you can board the, cruise ship. And it's just a river cruise. It was, I think, 5 or 6 days. And I hopped on a river cruise down the Nile River. And it was there that, in one of the ports, my guide for the day on the way back from, some beautiful temples and monuments and all these things that I got to visit, and the Valley of the Kings, which is just incredible. He asked if I wanted to stop by a perfumery. And I was like, I mean, I guess so, he's like, yeah, it's where, we have all of the Egyptian perfumes, because that's, fragrance is a very big part of their culture. Everybody knows that, Cleopatra used her rose oils and took rose oil baths, rose water baths and all of this. And so I was like, yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Let's go check it out. And they brought out, while I was there, they're bringing out all these beautiful oils like eucalyptus, vanilla, all these things that I'm like, these are beautiful. They really are. They're fantastic, but I can get these at home. What are some things that are more Egyptian? What are things that are like grown here that are very unique to this area? And they brought out papyrus oil. And Tom, when I tell you, one smell of that changed my life. I mean, I was in love with the scent immediately, not knowing that I had any future in this. But just a gut feeling of like, this is good. Like there's something about this that is just good. I sent a bunch of bottles of it back home, for myself to use. Went along with my backpacking trip. I was gone another like 2 months. And then once I got home, I started wearing it everywhere and getting so many compliments. I had never in my life been complimented on a fragrance like that.
Wow.
And people would ask me where it was from, what it was. And I finally said, let me look it up and like try and see where I can get more, let me see if I can get more of it. Went online and realized it just wasn't readily available in the US. I mean, you couldn't just go online and buy it. And so a light bulb kind of went off, and I said, my friends at least want some. What if I at least, ordered some more and sold it to my friends? And so I started literally with one product. I got back in touch with that little perfumery in Egypt and started to set up the channels to get it sent to me. And my entire company was born because of, this one SKU, like this one little product that just, it went well.
Amazing. Now, are you technically an importer?
So I do import. We still import all of our fragrance oils from Egypt. They still come from that same perfumery. So the fragrance oils themselves do come from there. Then we hand bottle everything here in Tampa Bay. So yes, our fragrance oils come from there, but we handle them here in the States.
Well, you were almost in the Bay the other day, weren't you, with that hurricane?
Well, I have to say, I was very lucky that I had already had a trip planned with all the ladies in my life, my sister and mom and soon to be mother-in-law. We went out to Napa. We already had a trip planned. And so we were out in Napa while the men were all back home, holding down the fort, quite literally, as Hurricane Ian came through.
Wow. Yeah, you dodged a bullet there for sure.
We really did. And our area did too. And but I have to say, that means that a different area, did get hit harder. And the Fort Myers, Sarasota, Naples area right now is really, really struggling. And like my company will be part of just this weekend, a fundraiser for hurricane relief efforts.
Nice,
because
nice.
In Florida, we support each other during these storms because we've all been there before.
Well, that goes along with the fact that you are the gift of the Nile, right?
So, that is true. That's why our company is called Anakit.
Yeah, it's the goddess of the Nile, right?
That's right. So Anakit is the Egyptian goddess of the Nile River. And when I was trying to come up with, a name for my company, I wanted to make sure that I gave that nod back to the Egyptian culture. And because the papyrus has grown along the Nile River for thousands of years, I figured that was the best way to, kind of say thank you to the Egyptian culture for providing, these beautiful scents. I mean, they're the ones who basically invented fragrance and started using it before anybody else. And so it's just a really cool tradition to be able to help carry on.
And guys can wear this too, right?
Absolutely. So
That's
all
cool.
of my fragrances are considered unisex. Our number one, the papyrus, is definitely a unisex scent. Can be worn by anybody. Is very universally appealing, and I always give the cautionary, tale of, beware, it is an aphrodisiac, and so wear at your own risk.
Now, yeah, something else about the Nile River that's really unique.
The way that it flows.
That's right. It's one of the few rivers in the world that flows south to north.
That is true. That's why when I went on my cruise and I say I went down the Nile River,
Yeah, when
I
I
was
kept
actually
hearing
going
you
north.
say that, you were
Yep.
going up.
Yep, going down the river means that you're heading north, but they still call it down the river
Right.
because that's the way the river's flowing.
That's right. That's right. I think the Monongahela is another one in Pennsylvania, but
Okay.
but I knew about the Nile. So what's the future of this company? Now you have more than just scents though now, right? I thought I saw some necklaces. Do you dip them in the
Yeah.
scent, or what are they? Is it some special kind of necklace? What is it?
Yeah, so we've expanded to some self-care products. During COVID, of course, we came out with our own version of the of hand sanitizer that's infused with the papyrus oil. So, if you have to stay clean and sanitized, at least you can still smell good doing it. And then that made us realize that, people continue to ask us for other ways to use these products, these fragrances, and other ways to wear them. And I came up with this idea of, fragrance diffusing jewelry that goes beyond your typical kind of aromatherapy jewelry that you see out there that tends to be a little, quote unquote granola. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. But I wanted to just kind of elevate that look with demi-fine, gold jewelry, with higher end products. And so we do have necklaces and earrings and bracelets that have porous stones on them. So you can put a couple drops of your fragrance oil actually on the jewelry, and it lasts even longer than it does on the skin. So you can wear that fragrance, kind of in a new, fun way while wearing beautiful pieces of jewelry too, because that was also a big part of Egyptian culture, with their jewels and everything. And so I wanted to continue to kind of expand the way that people can enjoy our fragrances.
Now, when you say fragrances, plural,
Yes.
is there variations of the basic papyrus scent?
So we actually now carry 6 fragrances. Only one of them is that papyrus. That's still considered our signature scent. It is our number one seller. But I did start pulling in a few other scents as well. So the papyrus is our top seller, but we also have blue lotus. We have traditional Egyptian musk, which people love Egyptian musk, and it was getting harder and harder for people to find. So I started importing that as well. We have Egyptian rose, which rose oil, if you're familiar with it at all, just how expensive it can be. And the Egyptian rose, they're able to grow it for a lower cost. So I'm able to offer rose oil at a slightly lower cost than you typically find. And then I have a couple of other unique ones like mimosa and sakara, which are a little bit more floral. But again, like the sakara is still one of my favorites from men. Because it just still has that very unisex kind of luxe kind of feel to it. So yeah, I decided that, while I love the papyrus and it's certainly still our top seller, that I wanted to offer other options as well for people who, wanted a little bit of something different.
All right. So now in 600 and what is this, 55 episodes, you are the first person ever to use the term luxe.
Yeah.
so that's special. Now I have another niche market for you.
Okay.
All right. So I rescue a lot of dogs, and one
Yes.
of them was a little blind dog that had been kicked
Oh.
around her whole life.
Oh.
And And so now I don't know if like essential oils is like the across the tracks low life compared to what you do, but anyway, they have different scents. So we would put a different scent on the baseboards in different rooms so the dog
Hmm.
would know where it is.
Yeah,
So
that's brilliant.
you got a whole dog blind dog niche there. I
There we
don't know
go.
how big it is.
And are you telling me that because I used to work with rescued dogs too? Did you know
I
that?
did not know that. No.
I I did. I used to help transport rescue
Oh,
animals. So I used to drive dogs that were being, pulled from different areas by a rescue.
see, that wouldn't work for me because I own all of
I
them.
trust me because I already had my two. That made it easier for me to not, get more because my two, that was just that. Trust me, I tried to keep a lot of them, but the transporting was. I can't foster now. If I foster, I just won't
Right.
give them out. But
Exactly.
transporting was brilliant because I, would pick them up in one location and I would drive them. They might stay with me overnight for just like one night, but otherwise I was just driving them from one location
Oh,
to
okay.
another. So yeah, that was my way of helping to save those little babies, but without, adopting every single one of them that ended up at my house. Because man, I would
Yeah,
have.
that's for sure. Now there's a rescue husky in about I don't know about 30 feet from me right now,
Oh, I
and
love it. I now have a boxer who's usually here at my office with me. She went home early today, but yeah, in the same way, my pups are always around me.
well, the two German shepherds are over here. We have a protection dog company on the side, but
Oh,
I
cool.
never had a husky before. I mean, I knew of huskies, but I never was around one.
Mhm.
And she looks at me, and I look at her, and she's partially blind too. That's another
Mhm.
thing. But then she goes, "Oh," and I just
Oh.
crack up because I'm used to the
Yes.
German
Yeah.
shepherds, and she looks at you and she talks to you, "Oh," all the
Oh.
time. So we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we'll ask Ashley what's a typical day look like for her, if she's still traveling, if she still have the backpack that she originally went with. So, folks, about 5 years or so ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, and that people at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to teach you how to do this stuff. And I knew a lot of these people, they're ripoffs. They'd be hiding out in Egypt or wherever they can because they wouldn't do the work. So I said, that's too risky for small businesses. So I charged an entry fee that was like 10 times lower. And then I tied my success to your success. So for me to get my 50 grand, you had to net 200 grand. Well, people really love this. And 1,700 plus students later, it's still going strong. It's the longest running, most successful, most unique mentor on digital and internet marketing program ever. And I always triple dog dare people to put a program up against mine because I'm a crazy fanatic. Actually, threw a class on Thanksgiving one time because I didn't realize it was Thanksgiving. It's really pitiful. I get it. But people, it's good to have a fanatic on your side when they're helping you make money. So you get an immersion weekend at the retreat center here in Virginia Beach. We have our own TV studio here. We shoot marketing videos for you. You're never lumped in with people. Like, we don't do group training when it's remote because we don't want to lump you in with somebody more advanced or less advanced. We hone in on your exact deals and we move you along as fast as you can go. So it's very unique, and it's one of the longest running ever. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And when you visit the retreat center, you better not be allergic to dog hair because we got dog hair all over the place. So you'll have to get over. You'll get. I think that's the next thing Ashley will come up with is some allergy thing that smells like Egypt. I don't know. So Ashley, what's a typical day look like for you? Do you get up early? Do you have a morning routine? Do you meditate? What do you eat? What's it like for your type of entrepreneur?
Man, I would love to say that I have a typical day, but I just don't. My days are crazy. I we have so I'm engaged now, and my fiance has an amazing daughter from his previous marriage, and so I'm super lucky that I'm about to be officially a stepmom, but I'm
Oh,
already kind of in that role, and so there's a lot of mornings that start with me taking her to
how
school.
old is she?
She's 12 years old. She'll be
Okay.
13 soon, so we're gonna have a teenager on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually one of my favorite ages. I love, working with like preteens and teenagers and college students. I love those ages as they kind of really become their own people. Um, and so that's a lot of mornings. It's me, getting her to school and then heading to my office. And my fiance and I actually share a office warehouse space. So we
Do you
have
text each other? Like I had this assistant and her husband, they had a home office and they sat with back to back to each other, but they would text each other instead of talk.
we absolutely text each other, but it's because we're on opposite ends of
Okay.
the warehouse. So
Okay.
he's back in the warehouse and I'm up front in the office. And so that's,
Does it smell like papyrus all the time?
everyone says, yep, you walk in my office and it smells like it. So yeah, absolutely. And our house does too, because I always have it all over the place. So yeah, so I then, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, I'm, working directly out of our office, and I do a little bit of everything. I have a team of marketing interns who are absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't do what I do without them. So a lot of, meetings with them, and I have them kind of keeping us moving in terms of, all of our marketing efforts while I run the business, behind the scenes.
Yeah,
And
but you
it's,
skipped over the part about, do you get up early? What do you
oh
eat? Do
yeah,
you work out? I mean, what's your life like?
yeah. So I used to be a night owl, big
And
time.
you're a
Like
health educator too. Come on.
I know. And so I used to be a major night owl. But since moving in with my fiance and our daughter, I have become a morning person. So I do wake up, pretty early now. Probably not as early as other people think, but for me, 7 a.m. is an early wake up. Um, and and not that I used to sleep in late, it would be like more like 8:30 or 9. But I do get up and get moving now in the morning. Get a few things done around the house. I always like to, it's hard for me to leave the house a mess, so I always do a little bit of like cleanup every morning. It's just kind of my way of getting my body moving and
No, see,
everything.
that's overkill for me. No, no, that's going too
um
far.
Yeah, I mean, I love to work out. I haven't been able to recently because of health issues. So it's been harder to do that, but I'm getting back on track with that now, especially with a wedding coming up in 6 months. That's when you really wake up and say, "Oh, got to get back in shape." And so there's a little bit of physical activity going on there. But I'm a healthy eater. Everybody, I get teased constantly for being I don't eat a lot of meat. I'm considered semi-vegetarian. I'm a Florida girl, so seafood is my go-to. But I'm a pretty healthy eater, though I have a bad sweet tooth. So there's always, like, if you open my drawer at my desk right now, there's always some gummy bears or dark chocolate
Gummy
in my
bears.
desk.
Maybe you could come up with some kind of Egyptian gummy bears or
Right?
gummy camels or something.
I love so they have hibiscus is one of their big kind of flavors there.
Yeah.
They drink hibiscus juice and it's delicious. And it's not super sweet, but I think that's why it's so good. So yeah, maybe I need to come up with something with a little bit of
Yeah, I
hibiscus.
saw a promo picture of you on a camel somewhere, and I have
Oh
one
yeah.
also from Morocco where I have my laptop and cell phone. I'm working from a camel
From
top.
a camel.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Tell them on the website again. What do they see when they go to your website?
So our website is anakitluxury.com.
Spell it for them.
Just like all of our social media is at Anakit Luxury.
All right, but spell Aniket.
Yes.
ANUKET.
ANUKET.
AniketLuxury.com.
That's it. And all of our, like I said, all of our social media is Anakit Luxury as well. And so you can definitely find us, anywhere. Just looking, searching for Anakit Luxury, or even just searching for papyrus oil. If you, look up papyrus oil, you're going to find Anakit real quick, because we're still one of the only sources of pure papyrus oil in the US.
And so there's fragrances there. There's
That's
special kind of jewelry there. Anything else?
Yep. So yeah, if you kind of look around on the website, you'll learn about, my story. You'll learn about all the products on there. We try to do a lot of product education, so you can really dive a little bit deeper into where my products are from. and how they work and everything. And we do have a blog that we love, putting together our blog posts because we talk about, little everyday luxuries because we believe that everyone should have them in their lives. And that's what, our products try to help achieve. But we talk about some, travel and self-care, sustainability and things like that on our blog too. So our blog, we always are diving into new interesting topics there.
And you're certifying that this stuff comes from Egypt, right? Not a couple guys in New Jersey just filling them up in buckets.
100%. Yeah, that's right. I even, have taken pictures for people of the boxes when it comes because the return address still says remote location Egypt because it's truly just out in the middle of nowhere in Egypt.
Wow. Gee whiz. How do you work the financial stuff? I mean, you have to pay in advance. How do you make sure that they send the stuff?
Yeah, it's not easy because they don't have the same kind of financial systems we do. And so I can't pay via like credit card. It's not like I can just go online and order more of this. I have relationships, set up with this perfumery in order to get their products shipped to me. And so it's all done through like wire transfers.
How long does it take to get an order?
It actually, once the order is finally set, it's actually pretty quick. We use DHL for shipping, and DHL has it here within a week.
Oh, okay.
And so the shipping isn't as bad because the perfumery is kind enough to take it to the nearest DHL to ship it out. So once I place an order, they actually drive, to the nearest city to be able to drop it off for shipment. But it does take some time, for the money to get to them. Their banks are not open as often as ours, that kind of thing. So it does take some planning for sure.
Is Christmas big for you?
Yeah, our holidays are always crazy.
When do you have to plan for that?
So we're already planning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure. We're already starting to, order all of our goods and everything for the holidays. People really like our products because when you're trying to shop for that person that has everything, I promise you they don't have papyrus oil. So it's like one of those things you can, and it's so universally appealing that everybody, truly everybody loves it. And so it's one of those things that people love to get products that they can use up versus something that's going to sit around and take up space around their house or, so it's one of those like perfect gifts,
Now,
to
is it
give
possible to even scale this because of the very unique nature and the one supplier? I mean, so how big can this get?
Yeah. So it is. I've talked to them. They have been in business for a long time in Egypt. And they supply, a lot of their products in other places around Egypt. But it's just that, specifically the papyrus oil and one or two of our others, like our Sakara oil and that are just incredibly rare for the US. So I have a lot of people who have found me online because they, visited that region and found papyrus oil and fell in love with it, but then they get back home and they can't find it anywhere. So I have let them know that I'm continuing to grow as a company and I will continue to, need more and more of it. And they are scaling their production to match, my needs. And so they're able to because they've been in business for so long. And they do, a lot of business with a lot of their other oils. But that's, because I've specifically focused on the oils that are the most rare, I've given the opportunity for people to try oils that you can't otherwise get.
Now, anybody trying to knock you off?
Oh, I'm sure they're out there. And I've seen a little bit, but like I said, we quickly became kind of the authority in papyrus oil in the US. And so I'm sure that there are some others out there that are, trying to make the same thing or
can they make fake papyrus oil?
I'm sure they could attempt to copy the scent, but I will tell you, I've had fragrance companies that create, lab created fragrance oils attempt to copy the scent and no one has yet been successful.
Good.
Yeah, so it's such a rare, complex scent that it's a lot harder to copy than you think an essential oil would be.
See, I'm afraid to get it though, because, you know, I've also a self-defense expert, and I don't want to use it on all these women that come out. That's I just asking for it basically. It's like wearing a
I
short skirt or something for me or something.
I hear you because I work with a lot of golfers because we do a lot of charities and we've
Mhm.
worked with at charity like golf fundraisers and things, and I tell all the golfers that the beautiful bonus side effect of papyrus oil is that mosquitoes hate it.
Oh,
And
that's
we live
good.
in Florida where, man, they're everywhere.
Right.
And so to be able to ward off the mosquitoes but attract the ladies, I mean,
It's a tough
my
thing.
athletes that are out spend a lot of time outside, aren't real mad at that.
It's hard to be a guy. It really is. So, Ashlee, thanks so much for coming on. Very interesting story and inspirational because what you've been through and what you made out of it. Now, do you still have that backpack?
I don't have the backpack. I sold the backpack.
Good.
I
Good.
kept a lot of the things that I, purchased along the way with the trip, but the backpack was from him. I needed to keep
Right.
things that I bought for myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thanks so much. So everybody check out AnuketLuxury.com, ANUKET luxury.com, and you'll see all the great stuff that Ashlee's been doing. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Okie doke, folks. We will catch you all in the next episode. See you later.